Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the course. I hope you liked the demo session yesterday. From today, we are going to start the actual class. So today, we're actually going to start with Introduction to TypeScript. Okay. So why TypeScript for test automation is something that we are going to start with. But before knowing this, why TypeScript for automation? I just want to tell you guys that people use a lot of languages for test automation. For Selenium, they use Java, and right now for Playwright, they're using TypeScript and JavaScript. See, the choice of choosing a programming language depends on a lot of factors. Let's say a team of 10 people who are already automating things in Java Selenium. If they want to move to a tool like Playwright with TypeScript, there are a lot of factors depend that depend. Okay. So what are those? Basically, when you are in a project, the client has to fund your project. Okay. All of the people are very well versed in Java, but for them to actually move to TypeScript, they will need some time. They'll need some time to learn. So that whole process is called upskilling. So if the client is actually willing to give them the time and invest that time in upskilling his team, then they're actually good to go with TypeScript for Playwright. But what if the client doesn't have time or money to invest? So what he is going to say is directly going to say use Java because Playwright is supporting Java also, right? So this is one of the reasons why people don't move away from one language. Okay, so choosing a programming language for your test automation is dependent on a lot of factors, like I told you. So one of those is client requirements and client budget. Okay, so whenever you're choosing something for your own project, keep that in mind. Like in what languages, in what languages are my peers or teammates well versed in? And how do I actually make sure everybody is upskilled? Will the client accept my request? Or does the client have that leeway or time or investment budget that he can keep on upskilling us? Okay, so this is one thing that you guys need to keep in mind. So this is mostly for the people who are in a position to dictate what kind of framework they want to pick. Obviously, the people who are just starting out or who are in a engineer level, they might not have much of a say, but I hope this would be helpful for you. Okay, and now, why are we choosing TypeScript for test automation? See, the reason is very simple. Okay, so a lot of people that are taking the course today are coming from a background of Java. Okay, so TypeScript actually is a superset of JavaScript, where in JavaScript, as a programming language, there is no type checking. So one moment you will be assigning number to a variable, and in another moment you will be assigning a string. So it is very irrational and you cannot predict. It is very unpredictable. So a lot of people who are coming from Java, they are used to actually doing this static type checking, where they actually check what is the data type and everything. I know few people have no idea about what a data type is. We'll see what a data type is and everything, but let's for the people who already know. So this is why we are actually using TypeScript actually lets us do the static type checking before we actually run the code. Okay, and it has some better features like type interface and everything that JavaScript natively doesn't support. Okay, so these are the things that we are actually going to use in the automation also. So that is why we are actually picking TypeScript. Okay. So do you guys have any doubts on why we are actually picking TypeScript for test automation? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So now let's start setting up your development environment. When I say setting up your development environment, what does it mean? So today you have to code everything yourself and start running your test automation. How do you do that? To do that, you need to have certain set of tools on your computer or on your laptop. So let's see how to set up those first. Okay. So I have made a PDF for this. I will go through the PDF. Okay. And I'll also show you on the web how to do this. But to make this class a bit more interesting and to make sure you understand things, I will keep telling you a small analogies where where you can actually relate real world to what I'm actually explaining you guys here. Okay. The first thing in the TypeScript setup guide is installing node.js. Okay. So the first question here is, what is node.js? So node.js is a JavaScript runtime that is used to develop JavaScript programs in your local machines. Okay. Now, a lot of people are not satisfied with the definition. They have different doubts like, what do you mean by a runtime environment? Okay, so let me start with a good story here. Okay, so let's say you wanted to eat something. Okay, let's say you wanted to eat a nice biryani. So normally what do? You go to a restaurant, right? So in my analogy, if you want to eat a biryani, you are going to go to a restaurant. But what if you want to make a biryani in your own home? So this is where you need something called kitchen, right? If you don't have a kitchen, you won't be able to make whatever you want to eat, right? So in my example, restaurant is a browser. In browser, JavaScript runs on its own. You don't have to do anything at all. So in the same way, in a restaurant, the food will always be there. You don't have to do anything. Okay, but what if you want to cook the same thing in your own home? You need to have a kitchen, right? You need to have a place where you can experiment and make your dish. So kitchen is the runtime environment. Just like Node, kitchen is your runtime environment. So here Node is the runtime environment where you can develop and execute your JavaScript programs. Okay. Do you guys have any doubts with respect to what is Node? We'll go with NPM next, but any doubts on Node?
Yes, I'm not clear for that example. Actually. Can you repeat once again?
Sorry, your voice is not clear. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Ash, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I'm not clear for that example. Can you repeat once again for that example?
Okay. So now you guys are seeing this browser, right? So whatever you see in this browser, the web app. So this is a web page, right? So in the backend, a JavaScript code is running. Okay. But what if you want to run the same JavaScript code on your local machine. You don't want to use a browser, you just want to run it directly on your local machine. So you need a runtime environment where you can actually run all this code, right? So Node is such runtime environment where you can actually run your code. So coming to the example, just like browser, there is a restaurant. Restaurant is a place where the food is already there. You don't have to go and do anything. Just like where in a browser, JavaScript is already running. You don't have to run separately something, right? But what if you want to make a dish at your own home? You need to have a kitchen, right? So here kitchen is equal to node, where node is a runtime environment and kitchen is also a place where you can experiment. Just like node where you can experiment, write new JavaScript programs and see how it is working. Okay.
Node is a
Very
kitchen, am I correct?
sorry. What is
Node is a
that?
kitchen.
See, node is not a kitchen. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, if you want to make your own dish, what are you going to do? You have to cook it in your kitchen, right? In the same way, what if you want to develop your own JavaScript program? You need to have something, right? That is what node is. Okay. Node is a place where you can experiment, just like kitchen is a place where you can experiment. Okay.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. So that is what a node is. So we need to install node first. So how do we install node? So you can actually go to this website. You can click on get node.js, and here, see, I am using a Mac OS. If you are using a Windows, you might see a exe file over here. Okay. Once you install this, so I already installed them. So a package file is there. Once I click on it, the node will get installed. In Windows, you need to follow a installation process where you need to click on next until the installation is complete. Okay.
Yes,
So how,
can you show me like Android Windows?
so does anybody have Windows? It's like the
Uh,
people who have attended the class. So if you share your screen, we can see it, you know, in live.
Otherwise, in above, like we have for Mac OS, we need to select for Windows, correct?
So basically, when you open this, it automatically detects what is your uh,
Okay.
operating system and what is your architecture. You don't have to change anything. If you are on a Windows system, you'll directly get a Windows thing. All you have to do is click on this button.
Okay, got it actually.
Okay. So once we are done with the installation, we need to check if the installation is successful or not. How do you check if your installation is successful? So
Sorry,
on
quick
Mac, there is a,
question.
yes.
Um, is there any specific version that we need to install for the Node.js, or any version, any latest version should do?
Latest version is fine.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So you need to check if the installation is successful or not. How do you do it? In Mac, there is a tool called Terminal. On Windows, you can open something called command prompt. Okay. What you can do is you can go to your command prompt, just type node hyphen v. When you do a node hyphen v, you'll get the version of the node that is installed on your system. This tells you that node is already there on your system, so your installation was successful. Okay. So this is how you check if your installation was successful or not. Okay. So let's go to the next part of the lecture.
Is it Windows VS Code is required to install in Node.js in Windows?
We have to install Visual Studio Code, but that doesn't have anything to do with Node.js. Visual Studio Code is for a whole different purpose.
For Playwright, it is not required, right?
For Playwright, it is required, but we are still not there yet. I'll come to that part later.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so we have already installed Node.js. When you install Node.js, there is something called npm that gets installed with Node.js. So what is npm? npm is a node package manager. So what do you mean by node package manager? So now let's go back to our example of the kitchen. Okay. So let's say, like I said earlier, let's say you want to make some biryani. So what do you do to make a biryani? You first need to cook some rice and then put some vegetables in it and then put some masala in it, right? How do you get all these things? You have to go to a grocery shop, get some rice, get some vegetables, and get some masala powders, right? If there is no grocery shop, let's say you are living in a remote area and in, in the vicinity of 50 kilometers, there's nothing. How do you do that? You have to have your own farm. Okay. You need to make sure you are cultivating your own rice, you are cultivating your own vegetables, and you are making your own masala from them, masala powder from them, right? So if there is no grocery shop, understand how tough it is for you to just make a biryani, right? So a grocery shop is where you actually get a lot of things for whatever dish you want to make. So in the same way, Node Package Manager is like a grocery shop where you can get a lot of packages that you can use in your programs, which were already written by some other people. Okay. So Node Package Manager. So let's understand what are packages. So if you wanted to do something like in the same example, if you are not there near a grocery shop, what were you doing? You are doing everything by yourself. Let's say there is a requirement that you need to send an email to someone in your program. For that, you had to write 100 lines of code, right? But if you have a package called mail sender, then you need only one line to actually send an email, right? So packages are something that are already written by some other people that make your work very easy. So you can use this Node Package Manager and install packages which are in turn useful for you to make your programming journey easier. Okay. So do you guys have any doubt in the Node Package Manager? Sandeep, if you can stop drawing on the screen, it would be great. Okay. So now let's try to understand how we will know if this Node Package Manager or NPM is installed properly on our system or not. So the same thing for if to check if node got installed, we did node -v. To check if npm got installed or not, we need to run another command called npm-v. So when you do that, it is going to give you the version. That means Node Package Manager is happily installed on your system. Okay. So this is how you install Node and npm on your screen. Okay. Now, the one thing that we are actually going to work on in the whole course, what is it? TypeScript. So how do you install TypeScript? Very simple. You already have Node Package Manager with you. TypeScript is a package that is written by some other people on top of JavaScript. Okay. So how do you install TypeScript? All you have to do is run this command npm install-g TypeScript. I already have TypeScript on my machine, so I'm not going to run this command again. But you can run this. That way TypeScript gets installed on your machines. So now let's check if TypeScript got installed properly on our machines or not. How do you do that? There is a command called tsc-v. So then it is going to tell you what is the version of TypeScript that is installed on your system. This means that TypeScript is happily installed on your system. Okay. So this is how you install the TypeScript in your system. Okay. Any doubts in how to install TypeScript?
Can you tell me that command again? Because it looks like I don't have the TypeScript installed. Let me try that again.
Yeah.
npm install TypeScript. Yeah, it's trying to install now. Okay.
Right.
Now let me see the other one. Yeah.
Is it working?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Great. Now, since we have installed Node, npm, and TypeScript, the next thing that I'm going to install is Visual Studio Code. So what is Visual Studio Code? So to understand Visual Studio Code, we need to understand what an IDE is first. Okay. IDE means Integrated Development Environment. Okay. So there are a lot of IDEs like Sublime Text, VS Visual Studio Code, Eclipse, IntelliJ. So there are different types of IDEs. So what is an IDE? Like I told you, it is Integrated Development Environment. So basically an IDE is something that will make your work easier for you. Okay. So if you start coding on a plain text file, .txt file, it will be very tough for you in a complex project to navigate between files. But when you use something called IDE, everything is on UI and you can actually navigate to files very easily. And also when you are writing code, it will automatically give you suggestions. So that way you can increase your productivity and decrease the time you spend on writing code. So that is why a lot of people, not a lot of people, anybody that is there in the tech world uses IDEs. Nobody writes it on a simple text file or a notes. Okay. You guys might have already worked on different types of IDEs. I'm just telling this in depth because there might be people who have not worked on an IDE before. Okay. So how do you install Visual Studio Code? You can go to this link and then you can click on down. Here there's already a thing for download for Mac OS. So when you click on download for Mac OS, this zip is going to get installed. You can extract this zip and start your installation. So on Mac, what happens is when you extract this zip, you'll get a pop-up saying move this Visual Studio Code to your applications. So you just have to drag it and put it in your applications folder. But on Windows, you'll get an installation wizard where you can keep clicking on next until the installation is complete. Okay. So that is how you actually install Visual Studio Code on your system. And once the installation is complete, so when I open the Visual Studio Code, so this is how your home screen should look like. There might be few changes because you can see this recent. This recent are things that I have worked on. So that is why I am seeing a lot of folders here. Since you are installing it newly, you won't be seeing anything in the recent thing. Okay. So this is how you install a Visual Studio Code on your system. Okay. Any doubts in installing Visual Studio Code? Okay, and take that as a no. And then the penultimate part of the setting up. So I want to now start a TypeScript project where I can actually do some coding and teach you guys things. How do I do it? So what you guys can do is, so right now I am on my home folder. So I will navigate to a folder called documents. You can navigate to whatever folder you want. So there I'm actually going to create a folder. So I'm going to name this as TypeScript 2. Okay, and then I'm going inside this TypeScript 2. Then here I am going to run a command called tsc -init. Okay, so what does this command mean? You are saying initialize a TypeScript project in this specific folder. Okay, and when I click on enter, so it says a lot of things over here. It says I created a new tsconfig.json with different configuration things. So we will see what is a tsconfig.json in the 1.4 of advanced TypeScript feature. So there is a lecture that will explain you what is tsconfig.json configuration. So we will see that there. But for now, try to understand when you create a TypeScript project, this is how the output would be. But now you have created a project. What do you have to do? You have to open that project. Where do you have to open that project? You have to open that project in the IDE called Visual Studio Code. How do you do that? So go to Visual Studio Code, click on File, click on Open. So now you can go to Documents. Here I have created a folder called TypeScript 2. Click on it, open. Okay. So now your TypeScript project is actually opened in your machine. Okay, in your IDE. So the only file that will be there in your project is the tsconfig.json. Don't try to break your heads trying to understand what this is. We will see about this later. Okay, in the later classes. Okay, don't think too much about this. Okay, so this is how you actually start a initialize a TypeScript project in your local machine in your IDE. So do you guys have any doubts?
For Windows is the same thing we have to do.
Yes, it's the same thing. Okay. Any other doubts, guys?
That json.config file, that one is not understood.
Right. So when you create a project using this command, a file called tsconfig.json gets created in your folder. Okay. So what this tsconfig.json is, I'll tell you in the later classes. But for now, if a tsconfig.json file is created, that means the project setup is successful. Okay. Any other doubts? Okay, now let's see. Let's run our first TypeScript program today and see what's happening. Okay. Now what I will do is I will create a file.
One more I have doubt. Is Playwright is default support TypeScript or JavaScript?
Playwright supports JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, Python, and C#. All of this. There is no such thing as a default support.
Okay,
It supports all
like
these five
means
languages.
Selenium, Java, like that.
Right. A lot of people use Selenium Java. That doesn't mean Selenium's default language is Java. Okay, Selenium also works with a lot of different languages. There's no such thing as a default language. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll create a file in our project. So how do we create a new file in the project? So there are these buttons. So this button, if you hover on it, it is going to say you new file. So when you click on it, you can name your file. Okay, for now, I'm naming my file as index.ts. So what is .ts? When I say .ts, I am saying this file is a TypeScript file. Okay. Now let's see the first program for today. That is printing something that you can see. Okay, this is the first program that anybody learns in any programming language. So now let's see how to print hello world so that you can see it on somewhere over here. Okay. So how do you print something in TypeScript? So for the people who have already learned Java, who already worked on Java, there is this concept called system.out.println, which is used to print things. In the same way, for TypeScript or JavaScript, the way to print things is console.log. Okay. When you say a console.log, you are saying print something to the console. Console is a place where you can see all the things that are happening. Okay. If you print it. So when I say .log, it is saying print. Okay. Remember that log means print. So that way it is very easy for you guys to understand. So in this console.log, you have to tell what you want to print. So I want to print hello world. Okay. And I have saved my file. Okay. Now Visual Studio Code has an inbuilt terminal. Okay. You can open the terminal. So you're already in your TypeScript 2 folder. First thing what you guys need to do to run a TypeScript file is to compile it. So how do you compile a file? So to compile a file, you need to say tsc. So we are seeing this command tsc-v, tsc-init. What does tsc mean? TypeScript compile. Okay. tsc means TypeScript compile. What do I want to compile over here? I want to compile a file called index.ts. Okay. When I do enter. So now that everybody is watching this video, after I hit this command, a small change has happened in the whole project. Can you guys tell me what is that change?
Index.js folder has been created.
Yes. So when you do a TypeScript compile, a file called index.js got created. So what is .js file? A .js file is a JavaScript file. Okay. So I told you, right? Node is a JavaScript runtime environment. It is not a TypeScript runtime environment. So if you want to run something on Node, you first need to convert your TypeScript file to a JavaScript file. Then only Node will be able to recognize and run it. So that is why what this tsc command will do by default is when you give a file name, it is actually going to compile it and then create an index.js file out of it. So if you go and see inside index.js file, no big difference is there. Okay. You will see big differences when we keep writing a lot of code, different code. When we go further in the course, we will be able to understand the differences between a .ts file and a .js file. But for now, it is the same. I mean, it's okay. So what we can do is, now you want to run this. How do you run it? To run this, you need to say node index.js. What happened? It printed the hello world. Right? Now, do you guys have any doubts with respect to this? So this is our first program. And do you guys have any doubts with this?
So
The question is, show me that command for ts config file is created.
This is the command.
In command prompt, we have to type this, right?
Yes.
tsc hyphen init.
Okay. Any other doubts, guys?
So, sorry. So for every TypeScript file we create, there is a Node.js file created by default.
So if you want to run the program that
Yeah,
you write in the TS file,
yeah.
you need to create a corresponding JS file to it. So how do you create a corresponding JS file? You need to run this command called TypeScript compile. Okay, so
Okay.
the corresponding JS file is created, and when you run a node on the corresponding JS file, your program will get executed.
Okay. So
if I
without doing that, it can't be executed.
So right now, if I do a node index.ts, it will work
Okay.
because this is a very simple statement.
Mm.
Okay, but going forward, we will be using data types and everything that node doesn't recognize.
Okay.
So when we actually convert it into JS only, we'll be able to run those files.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other doubts, guys?